Imagine living your entire life in pursuit of heaven or in fear of hell, never questioning whether these places are even real. But what if there's another way, a path to spiritual liberation that doesn't depend on any afterlife rewards or punishments? The Buddha, one of history's greatest spiritual teachers, didn't just question heaven and hell. He revealed them to be illusions that could actually trap us. Today, we'll explore why the Buddha's teachings challenge the very concepts of heaven and hell found in the Bible and the Quran, and how this perspective could change the way we understand spirituality forever. The Buddhist path to enlightenment. To understand why the Buddha challenged ideas like heaven and hell, we need to understand the essence of his teachings. Buddha, born Siddhartha Gautama in ancient India, taught a path to enlightenment, what he called nirvana. In Buddhism, nirvana isn't a heavenly realm or paradise. It's a state of liberation from suffering, desire, and attachment. Buddha taught that the root of all suffering lies in our desires, our attachments to the world, and to ideas that bind us. So what's the goal? Not to seek a place of reward or avoid a place of punishment, but to attain nirvana, a state of ultimate freedom and peace, free from the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But here's the radical part. The Buddha's enlightenment isn't given or withheld by any god. There's no judge, no savior, only you and your path to awareness. The Buddha's teachings offer a profound shift in perspective. Liberation is something we achieve within ourselves. It's not about pleasing a deity or securing a place in heaven. It's about transforming our minds and letting go of our attachments and desires. The illusion of heaven and hell in Buddhist philosophy. For many, the concepts of heaven and hell are central to religious life, especially in the Bible and Quran. These realms offer a system of rewards and punishments, encouraging people to live morally and avoid sin. But in Buddhism, these places don't represent ultimate truths or eternal destinations. Buddha saw heaven and hell as temporary realms, reflections of one's actions or mental states. If you live with compassion, generosity, and kindness, you may experience something akin to heaven in this life or in another rebirth. Conversely, a life filled with anger, greed, or violence may lead to states of suffering, a sort of hell. But here's the key. These are impermanent conditions. They're not ultimate rewards or eternal punishments. So, what if heaven and hell aren't the ultimate goals? What if chasing them is actually holding us back from true freedom? For Buddha, clinging to the idea of a heaven or fearing a hell can trap us in cycles of desire and aversion, keeping us bound to suffering. According to Buddhist teachings, true liberation comes when we let go of the dualistic mindset that divides life into rewards and punishments. The ultimate reality lies beyond these labels. Heaven and hell versus nirvana, a radical contrast. In the Bible and the Quran, heaven and hell are destinations, either a paradise for the faithful or a place of eternal suffering for the sinful. But in Buddhism, nirvana isn't a destination, it's a state of being. Nirvana is achieved when one has fully transcended ego, desire, and attachment. It's a complete liberation from the cycle of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Think of it this way. Heaven and hell depend on external judgment, with God or Allah as the ultimate authority. Nirvana, however, is entirely internal. It's a state you attain through self-realization. There's no judge, no gatekeeper. Your journey is guided by your own actions, intentions, and awareness. This shift is huge. Instead of working toward a place of paradise or fearing a place of punishment, what if the ultimate goal is simply freedom from suffering itself? Buddha's path doesn't aim for an afterlife reward. It seeks to end suffering here and now. Rather than fearing hell or desiring heaven, Buddha's path is about transcending the very need for these concepts. In the Buddhist view, clinging to the idea of a better place after death actually keeps us bound to suffering. The role of karma, a self-directed spiritual journey. One concept that links Buddhism to the Bible and Quran is karma. But here's the catch. Buddha's view of karma is vastly different. Karma isn't about divine judgment. It's not God watching your actions and assigning you a reward or punishment in heaven or hell. Instead, karma is the natural consequence of your own actions. In Buddhism, karma is simply cause and effect. Acts of kindness, compassion, and honesty lead to positive outcomes, while acts rooted in anger, greed, and ignorance lead to suffering. But this karma is self-directed. No deity or external power decides your fate. Your choices and actions shape your experiences. Imagine a spiritual journey where you're not trying to win a place in heaven, but are instead transforming yourself with every choice you make. No judge, no verdict, only you and the impact of your actions. In this way, karma supports the Buddhist idea of self-responsibility. Heaven and hell are not places we end up because someone judges us. They're conditions we create for ourselves through our actions and intentions. Buddha's challenge to the concept of the soul. In both the Bible and Quran, there's a strong emphasis on the eternal soul, the self that will be judged and sent to heaven or hell. But Buddhism challenges this notion by teaching the concept of anatta, or no self. According to Buddha, the self, as we understand it, doesn't exist in a permanent way. What we call the self is a collection of ever-changing thoughts, emotions, and sensations, nothing more. If there's no permanent self, then who or what is being rewarded or punished in heaven or hell? The Buddhist view suggests that clinging to the idea of a soul is just another form of attachment, another source of suffering. True liberation, Buddha argued, comes from understanding that our sense of self is an illusion. What if the thing we're trying to save, the soul, is an illusion? Could this attachment be the very thing keeping us from true peace? In Buddhism, letting go of the self is the key to nirvana. While the Bible and Quran encourage believers to save their souls, Buddhism asks us to release the concept of a soul altogether, to see beyond the illusion of a permanent self. Buddha believed that once we let go of this attachment, we are freed from suffering. The controversial idea of rebirth without a permanent soul. The concept of rebirth in Buddhism is often misunderstood. While some assume it's similar to reincarnation, where a soul moves from one life to another, Buddhism teaches a different view. In Buddhist philosophy, there is no permanent soul that moves from one life to the next. Instead, our actions and intentions create an energy that carries forward, leading to the conditions of our next life. This view challenges the ideas of heaven and hell, where a permanent soul receives eternal reward or punishment. Instead, Buddha taught that nothing in our experience is permanent. Everything, including our sense of self, is in constant flux. Imagine a journey that continues without a soul to anchor it, an endless transformation shaped by the choices we make. What would it mean to live without fearing an end, without hoping for a paradise? In this way, the Buddhist concept of rebirth is less about personal continuity and more about the continuation of actions and intentions. Rather than seeking eternal reward or fearing eternal punishment, Buddhism encourages us to focus on the present moment, knowing that our current actions shape the conditions we experience. Is freedom beyond heaven and hell the path to true enlightenment? Buddha's teachings challenge the very structure of religious beliefs based on heaven and hell. Instead of a future-focused spirituality where we strive for reward or fear punishment, Buddhism teaches a path of immediate liberation. Buddha encouraged people to question not only their desires and attachments, but also the very beliefs that create those attachments. Concepts like heaven and hell, Buddha suggested, are illusions that can keep us bound to suffering. By letting go of these dualities, Buddha believed we could achieve a higher form of freedom, freedom from the endless cycles of desire, fear, and attachment. So, could it be that Buddha's path offers a deeper truth, a freedom beyond the hope for heaven or fear of hell. Is true enlightenment only possible when we see through these illusions? Whether you're a believer, a seeker, or a skeptic, the Buddha's radical teachings invite us to explore spirituality from a new perspective, one that doesn't depend on divine judgment, but on our own actions and awareness. Thank you for watching. If this exploration into the Buddha's teachings has sparked new thoughts, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your perspective in the comments. Let's keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for true freedom.